Okay, and we have some other people just now coming in. So I know the stream has started, but if y'all would give us just a few seconds to let these people who are coming in and get settled and started, we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Hello, 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 everybody. Hello. First, if anybody has been sitting there waiting since 7 o'clock, we had a few glitches. Thank you for hanging in there with us. We're about to get started. So, welcome to My-Says NYC. This is an evening of personal prose and public, let me start over. Personal prose and poetry for public consumption. So really what that means is it's what goes on in my head and now it's out in the public, y'all. So let me just start solemnly though by just acknowledging the passing of the great Tina Turner, so near and dear to our hearts, just because she was a lovely light, a lovely talent, brilliant performer, and she will be missed. So let's give a shout to Miss Tina. So thank y'all so much for coming. I hear the trains have been crazy. That's why I took a car, but you all took time out of your days, out of your busy days to come and share with us, and that's not lost on us. We appreciate that. We are honored and humbled that you all are here with us. And I see people that we met 2018, people that we just met today, people that we met earlier in the month, friends from home that have moved here. It's just, y'all give yourself a hand. Y'all are a beautiful audience. And to those watching at home, I love my Texas people. Woo! Yes, yes. Thank y'all. So before I go any further, I do need to say that I am recovering from a concussion, so let's just get that out there. So y'all please forgive any stutters, any stammers, any lapses, any pauses, any falls, and anything up front. And y'all pray that the mind will cooperate tonight. So I hope you all will be entertained. I hope you'll be uplifted. I hope you will be challenged. And I hope you will just enjoy yourself. Avail yourselves to the drinks, and the food will be available at the first intermission. So, yeah, let's just get started. So first of all, I got to get some personal thanks out of the way, and I'm going to do my cheat sheet, so, because my mind. So first of all, I'm thanking my Heavenly Father, because no way I'd be up here without Him. You know. Y'all give Him a hand. Then I got to thank my wonderful husband, Daryl, of 38 years. And y'all, for every day of those 38 years, he has encouraged me to be myself. And after 60 years, I finally got it. And I kind of starting to like what I guess he's liked all along. Second, I want to thank my sister, my big sister, who for some reason tells me how proud she is of me when all I ever wanted to do and still want to do is just grow up and be like her. I want to thank my children for being your wonderful selves. Y'all inspire me. And specifically for this event, I want to thank Tyler for his inspiring coming to New York, pursuing his dream, encouraging me with his creativity, giving me critiques and little, tricks of the trade, and Jordan for working your magic and getting the Facebook Live feed up and going with Jameson up there. I also want to thank Cindy, y'all, turn around, fellow poet who gave me my first platform and convinced me that I had something to offer. Thank you. And then, of course, I want to thank Jerry Eastman, the owner of this establishment, Williamsburg Music Center. It is the coolest vibe, don't y'all think? Yes. Y'all make sure that y'all come on Fridays and Saturdays. Great jazz, great live jazz. And of course, I cannot forget his staff. That's Natasha. Details for that's Afia, who's playing the meal back there. Then we've got Jameson up there, lights, tech, all things technical, cameras, audio, and Chris is somewhere around here also. So thank you all. All right. Also, I want to shout out, I guess Kendrick hadn't made it here yet, but I want to shout out to Daily Paper who dressed me today. They are the coolest shop. They're at 18 Delancey Street in the Bowery, and it's a brand that's owned by 3 friends, one from Ghana, one from Morocco, one from Somalia, and they fuse traditional aesthetics with the continent vibe. And so they don't know it, but they're gonna be dressing me every time. So anyway. All right, so tonight, also one note, if you would silence your cell phones at this time, I'd be very thankful to you. So tonight, you see the program. We're going to start with a prologue, which is a way to introduce myself to you all and to level set for what you will experience tonight. Then there will be 2 sections of prose, 2 pieces of prose in each section. Those will be separated by an intermission. Y'all at home, potty break, popcorn, you know. The personal prose is kind of a personal reflection, these pieces, but they have broader application beyond just myself. Then we'll have a second intermission, and then we'll move into a look at African American life in America through these black eyes. And that portion is called A Time to Speak. And then there'll be an epilogue that kind of sums up my whole life. So y'all came, and y'all tuned in, so here we go. The some of me. When you look at me, you see a female, a black female. When you talk to me, you hear a believer, a Christ believer. Now, these are two obvious pieces of me, but as you listen tonight, you will discover the not so obvious pieces of me. To be exact, you will experience the sum of me. So to my black brothers and sisters, I am about the struggle, but not just about the struggle. To my non-white brothers and sisters, I am about things in general, but not just about things in general. To my believing brothers and sisters, I am about the spiritual, but not just about the spiritual. To my non-believing brothers and sisters, I am about things in general, non-spiritual, but not just about the non-spiritual. To my sisters, I am about the female, but not just about the female. To my brothers, I am about the non-female, but not just about the non-female. So if I do this right, I will affirm all, I will offend all, I will humble all, I will uplift all. And if I really, really, really do this right, ultimately, hopefully, I will inspire all to be the sum of you as I reveal the sum of me. So this first portion of prose comes from a collection entitled Why You Should Quit Your Job. She's laughing because I said it backwards last time. Why You Should Quit Your Job and Travel with Your Husband. So those of you who know us and those of you who don't, a little background. So my husband and I homeschooled our 3 sons for about 12 years. That means from the time my firstborn was born in 1990 till my youngest graduated in 2012, I always had somebody underfoot. In 2011, Daryl took a job that caused him to do a lot of traveling. So when our youngest graduated, I decided to start traveling with him. And I found myself going from all of the ruckus of a house full of my sons and their friends and their friends, into another city where I didn't know anyone, in a hotel room, by myself, in the quiet and the solitude. And I just knew God had something to say to me, so I bought a tablet, picked up my pen, and settled down to listen, a lot of the times kicking and screaming for the lesson. And that's how Why You Should Quit Your Job and Travel with Your Husband was born. Okay. This first piece was written, so these are dated, these, the prose is dated, so just remember that as I say numbers and years and so forth. So this first piece was written in February of 2015. It's entitled, Learning to Look Past the Trash. Alpharetta, Georgia in February. First, let me say I never even heard of Alpharetta, Georgia. However, when we turned off of the highway, I saw enough commerce and industry to exhale. This was civilization. We would be fine, we would have decent places to eat, and I even saw a Stein Mart. And I thought, maybe I'll go shopping. Those of you who know me know I'm not a shopper, so that was noteworthy. As a matter of fact, the only time I ever went shopping on one of these trips with Daryl was when the heel on the only pair of shoes I took broke en route, and I was forced to go shopping. We checked into the Residence Inn and learned that there was snow in the forecast for the next day. The desk attendant gave us our choice of rooms. I chose a third-floor room with a tree-lined view. Oh, nice, the attendant said. That one has a fireplace, too. I was beyond elated, y'all. A 2-bedroom suite with a view, a fireplace, and snow in the forecast. I envisioned long days snowed in with my mug of coffee, the fireplace on, it was gas, and a book in hand, either the one I'm reading or the one I'm writing. Either way, heaven. Who knew? It was located in Alpharetta, Georgia. As soon as we got to the room, I turned on the fireplace, opened the shears, and what? There's trash in the tree right outside my window, right at eye level. Who brings trash to heaven? The first thing that entered my mind was to open the third-floor window and attempt to dislodge the black plastic bag from the tree. The second thought that entered my mind came in quick, successive images. Me dangling from the tree limbs while the black plastic bag blows off into the distance. Someone calls 911, and the firemen try in vain to untangle my natural hair from the branches. And that's why I went with the third option. Refocus. Refocus. Take a walk with me back to the pre-smartphone camera era. If you were lucky enough or nerdy enough, you had a single lens reflex camera. Those cameras came with a lens that you could manipulate to narrow or broaden or change the focus. You could focus on a single object in the foreground and blur out the background, or you could focus the lens on the background and blur out objects in the foreground. Now, I was lucky enough, and yes, nerdy enough, to take photography at Baylor, and I had a Pentax K1000. I loved playing around with the focal points and changing the perspective until I had just the right look. I enjoyed the whole notion of choosing my subject and its relevance to the setting. That's why I'm also a horrible smartphone photographer. There's just not an option to choose perspective or focus. Everything seems to have the same weight and relevance to the setting. As I looked back at the trash lodged in my tree, it's my tree now, I realized that I'm not a smartphone camera. I can choose my perspective and my point of focus. I could choose to focus on the trees in the background and distort and blur out the trash in the foreground. At this precise moment, God spoke to me about the lesson of the trash in my tree so loudly that even Daryl overheard him. Daryl said, "Now there's a message for you to write, trash in the tree." Like, okay. I'm gonna have to sit down now. I'm gonna have to listen, kicking and screaming for the lesson and write what I learned. Y'all, my perspective of what I thought would be heaven was quickly getting refocused for me. So every morning when I woke up and opened the shears, the first thing I saw was the trash in my tree. That got me to thinking. When I pull back my eyelids in the morning, what trash do I see in my real tree? You know, in myself. Since answering this question would require time and introspection, I obviously procrastinated. I moved on to less invasive activity. I busied myself with the view from the window. I practiced changing the perspective from the tree with the trash in the foreground to the forest of trees in the background. When I focused on the forest of trees in the background, I saw a larger, calmer view. It was a peaceful view. It was an endless view. As I considered the larger, calmer, peaceful, endless view, I finally mustered up the courage to tackle the real assignment. Okay, God, you've got my interest piqued. I'm ready to examine my foreground trash and my background serenity. Now, I have to digress here for clarity because otherwise y'all won't get the real message and the real lesson like I got it. So, our family's current worship mode is modeled after the home churches in Acts. We call it church at the table, or CAT for short. When Daryl and I are in town, our family sits around our kitchen table, breakfast in our bellies, and have a 1 Corinthians 14 church experience. The kind of church experience where questions can be asked, where questions can be answered, or at least pondered if you don't know the answer. The kind of church where if God reveals something to another person while one person is speaking, this person is free to impart the revelation knowledge at that precise moment. The kind of church where we strive to use the gifts of the Spirit decently and in order. But if y'all know my family, y'all know in order is a bit of a stretch. Our current CAT lesson is on perspicuousness. If you don't know that term, don't feel bad. None of us knew where Daryl was going when he began the lesson. We were all perplexed about perspicuousness. But isn't that such a fun word? Perspicuousness. Y'all say it. Perspicuousness. At home too. Perspicuousness. I just love that word. Perspicuousness, as Daryl presented it, is us working on understanding that we are an expression of God's idea. In that understanding, we should look to enhance anything in the narrative of our lives which communicates that idea clearly, and omit anything in the narrative of our lives which doesn't communicate that idea clearly. So Daryl gave us a homework assignment for the next CAT meeting. We were to identify 3 things in our lives that typified us as an expression of God's idea. And then identify 3 things in our lives that didn't belong to that idea. The example he gave us was like striking sentences from a paragraph that didn't apply to the topic sentence. So we all understood the assignment. So back to Alpharetta. I was extremely proud of myself. Having completed my homework, I assumed, early Monday morning at the hotel. I was reading my morning devotion, and one sentence brought a rush of thought. I jotted down my 3 and 3 and considered myself finished. I even smugly read them to Daryl and gloated about finishing my homework so early. Have you done yours, preacher man? Little did I know that my homework was nowhere close to being completed. It wasn't until I began to write this piece that I understood the true homework assignment and the picture lesson that God had painted for me. As I looked out the window once again, I saw it all very clearly. The the three things that typified me as an expression of God's idea equated to the trees in the background, the big picture, the larger, calmer, peaceful, endless picture. The three things that didn't belong to that idea were represented by the trash in the tree. And just like I couldn't physically reach out of that third floor window and rid that tree of its trash, I couldn't spiritually reach inside and rid myself of my trash. What I could do, however, is refocus. Refocus. I could decide the relevance and weight of the objects in my view. I could refuse to give equal weight to everything I saw in myself. Is it really that easy? I mused. But what about the trash in my tree? What about the trash in me? Should I just let it stay? The answer God gave was so simple, so freeing. Whew. Let the wind take care of it. Let the wind take care of it, he said. You just keep your focus where I have directed it on my idea of you. But he continued. One morning, someone will check into this hotel and they will open these shears and the wind will have blown the trash right out of that tree. And in like manner, one morning he said, you will open your eyes and the wind of my spirit would have blown the trash right out of your soul. Until then, Lydia, look past the trash into my idea of you. This next piece was written in Jersey City, New Jersey, and let me apologize to the New Jerseyans first. In January of 2015. And I'd like to dedicate this to my wonderful husband who loves me unconditionally, in spite of, and just because, I should say just because and in spite of. And I also want to dedicate this to Cindy, who is the ultimate communicator on many platforms. This one is entitled Closed Up with Closed Captions. You never know what a trip with the husband will bring. Just when you think you've run the gamut of new experiences, voila! When this trip was booked initially, we were supposed to be in New York City in Times Square at the famed Sofitel Hotel. But Daryl's project schedule got rescheduled, and so did our trip. And we ended up instead in Jersey City, New Jersey, at a Marriott Courtyard. Not bad, but not the Sofitel Hotel in Times Square. Now, when Daryl and I arrived in Jersey City, we went straight to eat. Since the forecast called for heavy snow, we Texans decided we better get out and back in quickly because we don't know heavy snow. And it's a good thing we did, because by the time we got back from eating, the forecast had changed from just heavy snow to a full-blown blizzard, historic blizzard. Juno, do y'all remember Juno, the blizzard? was predicted to dump up to 3 feet of snow, possibly produce power outages, and possibly shut down the city. Really? Really? Now I have to go into work mode and make preparations to ride out a 2 to 3 day snowstorm in a hotel room. Not really what I was expecting. First order of business, water from the little hotel store. 4 bottles of water, $14.75. This blizzard is gonna cost me more than I want to pay. Second item on the list, lunch for tomorrow. Oh man, see the bistro's not open during the day, so I'm gonna have to find something to order tonight. Okay, spinach salad. That'll go good with my leftover ahi tuna from dinner. Daryl's gonna be on campus, he can eat there. We can go downstairs for dinner at the bistro tomorrow night, so check on the food. Next, I called downstairs for extra blankets, check. Made sure that the thermostat would perform well into the 80s, check. And I declared myself ready for Juno the Blizzard. Psh, 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 psh. Unbeknownst to me, another blizzard was approaching, and I was completely unprepared for it. By noontime on Blizzard Day, Daryl was home for good. Notice how hotel rooms have become home now. His students had left early to get home before the storm hit. Daryl would now be teaching the rest of Monday, all day Tuesday, and all day Wednesday virtually from the hotel room. For me, that meant I would be closed up for 2.5 days watching television with the closed caption on. Now, I didn't know quite how to feel about this. I'd never had a reason to turn on closed captions before. I was glad that they existed, though, so I could still catch the Steve Harvey Show. That's about the only show I try to watch with any regularity. It's my daily dose of black and laughter, and trust me, you don't want me to miss either one. They keep me sane, they keep me grounded, and more importantly, they keep me off of the evening news. Now, since the Steve Harvey Show didn't come on until 3 o'clock, I thought I'd practice on whatever was on at 2 o'clock. So with the TV on mute, I began my first closed caption experience. I don't remember what the show was, but I do remember being a bit befuddled. First of all, there was more of a delay than I expected. Second of all, there were more misspelled words than I expected. Third, there were words that weren't even words at all. That I never expected. How did the hearing impaired community tolerate this? I had so many questions. Was somebody really typing this poorly? Or was this like a Siri and Alexa and they were hearing impaired? Was it just plain bad diction? I didn't know. But I knew I only had 30 minutes to figure out how to train my eyes before Steve Harvey came on. How was I going to catch all of his goofy, crazy facial expressions if I'm reading 2 sentences behind? I briefly considered pondering a new meaning for the term bifocal, but I decided splitting my eyes horizontally for the sake of a 1-hour talk show was a bit overkill, so I figured, guess I'm just gonna have to figure it out. Finally, it was 3 o'clock. Daryl was in the midst of a lively lecture, and I was prepared to somehow master the art of watching TV with the closed captions on. What I mastered instead were valuable lessons in communication. Here's what I learned. Number one, when you are engaged, really listening, really plugged in, really intent on hearing the true message, misspelled words, they don't even ruin, nor do they even interrupt the true message. Number two, when you are familiar with a person, you can pretty much guess their facial expressions. Now, I've watched just about every episode of Steve Harvey on his talk show, on his sitcom, on Family Feud. He just cracks me up, y'all. I know people have, but he cracks me up, okay? He provides me with that merry heart that does good like a medicine. And even though I was busy reading the closed captions, 2 sentences behind, every now and then I'd peek up and I could catch one of Steve's crazy expressions, and I would just crack up because I pretty much could figure out what was before that, right? So I was actually having a really good time. Everything was going well. Juno had blown in. The room was warm and toasty. We had food and $14 water. And I was adjusting to my closed caption experience. All of a sudden, whoosh, 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 the other blizzard hit. The one I wasn't expecting. The one I wasn't prepared for. I was about to learn a third lesson in communication that would shake me to my core. I know my husband extremely well. We've been married for almost 30 years. I've seen him in every possible scenario. I know him so well, in fact, that while he is teaching, I don't even need to see the front of his face to know his facial expressions. The desk in the hotel room where he was working faced the wall. The couch where I was sitting was behind the desk on the opposite wall. So for 2.5 days, all I saw was the back of my husband's head. But I didn't need to see any more than that. I knew exactly when his smile erupted. I knew exactly when his frown appeared. I knew exactly when his frustrated looks surfaced, and exactly when his amused look emerged. And even though he misspoke and corrected his words several times, the intent of his message wasn't ruined, nor was it even interrupted. Okay, Lydia, shh, shh, shh. Do you hear what you're writing? You can correctly interpret your husband's message, mood, and expressions when he's not even talking to you, and all you see is the back of his head. How is it then that you misunderstand his message, mood, and expressions when he's talking to you face to face? Whoosh, whoosh. its fury, totally unprepared when it snapped me out of my decades-long delusion I had created for my own comfort, for my own benefit. I realized in that moment that for almost 30 years, I had been making an effort to misunderstand my husband, citing misspoken words and misread facial expressions. I didn't need closed captions to spell this out for me. 30 years worth of manufactured misunderstanding, when all I really had to do was really engage, really listen, really plug in, really be intent on hearing the real message. Funny, I never knew I was hearing impaired until the blizzard of 2015 closed me up with closed captions. I said this blizzard was gonna cost me more than I wanted to pay, and it did. It cost me my pretense. It cost me my pride. But I'm not mad, really. If I paid $14.75 for 2 days worth of water, surely I can pay some much needed humility for a life's worth of genuine communication. I want to thank you, Juno, for the lesson. All right, thank you. We're going to take a 10-minute intermission here. Potty popcorn breaks, my peeps at home. The food, Althea, is it almost ready back there? It's ready, so let's take 10 minutes, refresh your drinks, pick you up some food, and we'll come back here for the second portion of the prose part. test? Okay. Okay. Okay, so now we have about 2 minutes left before the end of intermission. And we will have another intermission. Okay, 15. Oh, counting down from 1 minute. All right, so as everyone is taking their seats, we're going to start back up. Just a second, give everybody a chance to get settled here. Okay, these next two pieces of prose are from a collection called Apple Bites. Oh, thank you. Are from a collection called Apple Bites. Now, some of you know that my sister and my son both live here in New York. My sister for about 20 years, my son for about 10. And so I get to visit often, but I never get to stay as long as I would like to stay. Even though I've been here 2 months this time, it's still not quite long enough. You know, you just take a little nibble here and a little nibble there, and you never get to consume the whole big apple at once. So at some point over the last 20 years, I started recording the little nibbles that I was able to take, and Apple Bites was born. And so I hope that you native New Yorkers and you replanted, transplanted New Yorkers will get a little fresh perspective and a new look at this beautiful city through this Texan's eyes. Again, these are all dated. And this I want to dedicate to my big sister, Andrea, or more affectionately known as Anjanae. That's my name for her. And this is entitled Balcony Bliss. I can't stay off of my sister's balcony. I think it's an addiction. No, I'm not suicidal. I'm not threatening to jump. It's actually just the opposite. Her balcony for me is a place of rest, a place of peace, a place of reflection, a place of creativity, a place of hope. Now, you New Yorkers might not think that you can get all of that from a third floor row house balcony, but let me assure you, you can. Today, there is a light breeze blowing. The temperature is perfect, and my musically gifted brother-in-law is serenading my thoughts. He, of course, doesn't know this. He's just practicing piano. But as I sit at the balcony table, pen and paper in hand, beautiful music wafting through the screen door, gentle breeze on my face. Well, you get the picture. It was idyllic. But I don't have to have the physical accompaniments today. They're not necessary for me to enter into an idyllic state of mind on this balcony. All I have to do is step over the threshold of the sliding door, and in my spirit, I've entered a new realm of existence. On this balcony, I can breathe. On this balcony, I can dream. On this balcony, I can hope. On this balcony, I can just be. There aren't many places in our current society where you can just be. There's no rush up here, no hustle, no bustle, no deadlines, no should, got to, shoulds, coulds. There aren't even mights. There just is. But don't mistake this balcony bliss for a place of silence. Nope. There are the typical sounds that can be heard from any New York balcony. Cars zzz, whizzing by, horns honking, children at play and parents shouting warnings, spirited conversations between neighbors, and an occasional siren or radio in the distance. No, it's not that this balcony offers a withdrawal from life's activities. They're all here in full force. But what this balcony does offer is a higher level view of life's activities. From this balcony, I can see how all of life's activities flow together in concert, necessary pieces of a beautiful whole, much like the notes my brother-in-law is playing, unscripted within the script, free-flowing, juxtaposed against each other, each contributing to, encouraging, and enhancing the other. That's why this balcony is a requirement for me. It should be a requirement for everyone. Here's why. When we are at street level, and we are the ones who are honking the horns or whizzing by, we can't see how we and those around us create a beautiful mosaic of life, a snapshot of the animation necessary for life to actually be lived, not just endured. If only we could see from this balcony perspective when we are at street level, we would live this life in a state of bliss, appreciating each tile of the mosaic, each note of the composition. The keys my brother-in-law is playing, they simply exist next to each other. They have no understanding of how beautiful they are when they share the same space at the same time. Oh, but from my brother-in-law's elevated position, his fingers poised and hovering above the keyboard. He can hear the harmony they create. See the necessity of each key. Each key is necessary. Each key takes its turn. Each key contributes to the whole. And that's why I can't stay off of my sister's balcony. That's why I'm addicted. I can't get enough of this perspective of life, this view of harmony and the beauty of each individual's contribution to the whole. This balcony view, this balcony bliss is essential to my soul. It's essential to me, period. Now, I don't have a balcony at home in Texas. I don't even have a 2-story house. But when I return home and I'm tempted to view life at street level, like one piano key lying obliviously next to the next one with no understanding of the other's purpose or necessity. Y'all give me a minute. I'll just close my eyes. I'll close my eyes and imagine my sister's balcony. I'll imagine myself stepping over the threshold of the sliding door into another realm of existence, looking down on the street below. I'll see the cars whizzing by. I hear the horns honking. I'll see the children at play and the parents shouting warnings. I'll hear the spirited conversations between neighbors and occasional siren, a radio in the distance. And I will be in bliss, for I will have brought myself once again to that place of rest, that place of peace, that place of reflection, that place of creativity, that place of hope that comes from this view of life. 3 flights up on a row house balcony. Now that's bliss, total bliss. Thank you. Now this next piece was written in October of 2016. Actually, the piece I did was a repeat lesson for this one because sometimes I'm a little slow on the uptake and I have to hear things a couple of times before they really settle in. This piece I would like to dedicate to our brothers and sisters in Ukraine as they Music Center is just such a wonderful vibe. You all come, support this business every Friday, every Saturday. There is cool, hot jazz here. Yes. So the title of this piece, Ukrainian Jazz, a vodka shot and a pickle chaser. The sign said, live jazz at 3 p.m. I missed all the cues. I don't know how I did, but I did. Number one, real jazz is never played at 3 p.m. Number two, real jazz is never played in a restaurant with borscht, waiters in bloomered trousers, and no stage. I guess I just figured that no one in New York City would dare fake jazz, but boy, did I miss that one. It's not that it was a bad time, it just wasn't live jazz at 3 p.m. My sister and I were on day 2 of a 3-day sister binge. We had eaten brunch at one of our favorite spots and were literally waterlogged from all the coffee and water refills. We had talked so long that we missed the street fair that was supposed to be stop number 2. That's when I remembered the sign from next door. To this day, I don't think I ever saw the name of the restaurant. I only saw the sign, come on y'all, live jazz at 3 p.m. And it was after 3. I will admit that initially, the Casa guitar gave me a little pause. However, my Texas mind figured that in New York City, even Ukrainians could jam like Basie, Duke, and Ella, but boy, not a good bet on my part. The 2-man combo, an upright bass player and a keyboard player who frequently used one hand to play a pseudo-type harmonica. I have never seen that instrument in my life. They weren't bad, they just weren't jazz musicians. Think Fiddler on the Roof. If I were a rich man, yada yada da 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 da, with a couple of piano runs, and you almost got it. I was so confused, and it wasn't from the glass of wine, it was I just couldn't get a handle on the music. I went from wanting to smash a plate and yell, "Opa!" to wanting to grab a tambourine. For some reason, there was a wall full of them, and either do a Holy Ghost dance or a belly dance. I told y'all I was confused. Now, in the midst of all of this, my sister and I were fascinated by an art lesson going on at the back of the restaurant. I don't know why, but there was an art lesson going on at the back of the restaurant. A pair of sisters, because it was a sister kind of day, were sitting at easels and reproducing with amazing accuracy the pictures the teacher had given them for guides. They looked to be about 7 and 4 years old, about the same age difference between my sister and me. Y'all, the facsimiles they produced were beyond amazing for adults, and these were little kids. Man, was it great talent? Was it great teaching? Well, it certainly wasn't inspiration from great jazz, that's for sure. We gladly watched the sisters while we suffered through the U-Jazz debacle, not the team, and we were glad for the distraction. So, by the time the sisters had completed their paintings, the 2 little men had finished their set. And they were at the bar shoveling food into their mouths with much more gusto than they had played with. That's when I realized this whole experience had me bordering on being sad. Could the sign have been a misnomer? Did we actually just suffer through Ukrainian blues instead of Ukrainian jazz? It wasn't that my sister and I weren't having an upbeat, lively conversation. We were. The atmosphere was just, I couldn't even bring myself to order a meal, so y'all know it was time to move on to step number 3. So we finished our wine, paid our bill, and headed out the door. Then it happened. We had just reached the threshold with one foot on the side of freedom when the hostess ran up behind us and literally dragged us back in, saying in this cute little accent, "You can't leave." We can't leave? What do you mean we can't leave? Now, we had paid cash, so I knew it wasn't the credit card that was the issue. We didn't know what was going on. Stopped to think, is this maybe some type of stop and frisk stuff? I thought y'all ended that a long time ago, and I didn't think civilians could do it. What was going on? Turns out we had violated a Ukrainian tradition. Apparently, before leaving a Ukrainian establishment, you were supposed to take a shot of vodka and chase it with a pickle. Far be it from me to break with tradition, so a shot of vodka and a pickle chaser it was. Surprisingly, the two flavors kind of blended. They worked a little bit together. It wasn't too bad. But I have to admit, I weaned it out a little bit. I had to do that vodka 2 or 3 times before I could get it down. Just then, though, my blahs turned into ahas. See, it all made sense now. It didn't have to sound like real jazz to be a real jazz experience. See, jazz was created with differences of unity and unity of differences in mind. You hadn't noticed that? See, each musician brings his or her unique skill and instrument into the whole. Then, each musician has an opportunity to display his or her uniqueness in the midst of the whole through a solo. Finally, once everyone's uniqueness has been showcased, they meld once again into the whole. I almost missed the beauty of this Ukrainian jazz, this difference in the midst of the whole. Can't stand it when I do that. I let the label live jazz at 3 p.m. throw me. I had my mind set. I had my expectations set, and almost missed what was really being offered. Uniqueness. But isn't that just like our world? It shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be. And now, for myself, it won't be. I have a remedy. The next time I am tempted to dismiss someone's uniqueness, I'll just take a vodka shot and a pickle chaser, and all will be right with my world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're going to take another 10-minute intermission here, and we'll come back with a mix of prose and poetry for our last segment. Thank y'all. Okay, so we should have about 5 minutes before the end of intermission. Okay, we've got about 2 minutes before we start the last portion. So if you will start making your way back to your seats. So it's a little dark, but I think I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can always turn this light back up brighter, but I fear
But I
that
think
it's
it's
gonna be
gonna,
right in your face.
yeah, okay. I can see it.
Because this one's like right here.
Okay. Okay. Okay, 30 seconds if everybody could take a seat. Is the mic on? Okay, is the mic on? Test, test. It's on. Now that he's seated, we're ready. Okay. This last section will be a mix of prose and poetry, and it's a look at life as an African American, a black person in the United States through these particular black eyes. Okay. Okay. Is that better? Better. Okay. I will be sitting again though too. Just pull it to me. Okay. 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 So at some point, this was before 2020 and all of those things had happened. I heard something, I don't even remember what the actual event was, but something was said either to me or one of my black sons, and it caused a conversation. And in the midst of that conversation, I remember thinking, gosh, I really wish white people could hear the pain and the turmoil that we talk about when we are in our safe spaces. But it's not always safe to open up outside of our safe spaces. So like the Lydia that I am, I said, okay, God, I'll be your guinea pig. I'll just use me to let them know how we feel. Now that's noteworthy because anybody of a certain age who is black knows that we were taught you don't put your business out in the street. You keep it close to the vest and you let them think that everything is okay. You just be silent and you take it. But what I see has happened is that they have taken our silence for happiness, for satisfaction, thinking that everything is fine with us, when it's actually not fine, has not been fine, and probably won't be fine for a long time. And so this portion is called A Time to Speak. There was a time for silence. You cannot start integrating into the white society and bring up every little thing that hurts your feelings. So there was a time to be silent. But now, this is a time to speak, particularly when our stories, our voices are literally being ripped out of the history books. And yet, there are those who say they want to weep with those who weep, and they want to mourn with those who mourn. But I heard a First Nations brother say, how can you weep with those who weep when you shy away from why they weep? He said there is a lesson and a healing. There is a healing that comes when the message is told and when the message is heard. Not denied, not pushed aside, not torn asunder, but when the message is spoken and when the message is heard. There is a healing that takes place. And while these may be some hard things to hear, try living them. That's the harder. So it is definitely now a time to speak. Is this good? On black bodies as property. The scene was yet another killing of an unarmed black man by a white police officer. The black man was trying to defuse a domestic disturbance between two other individuals. The cops came. The would-be peacemaker was shot dead. Turns out, the black man was a local town hero, well-liked, well-respected. Turns out, the white police officer who killed him hadn't worked in the town long enough to know that this particular black man was one of the good ones. The officer saw black, he saw red, he shot, he killed. Disturbing scenario. Yes. Devastating events. Yes, absolutely. But it was the words of another white man, the dead black man's childhood friend, that troubled me more than the disturbing scenario and devastating events. This man recounted how the two of them had grown up together as friends. They had played ball together all throughout their school years, and even in their post-school years, he said they had remained close and in contact. This white man stated that his friend's untimely death was unfortunate. But his main concern, he said, was for the residents to respect the city and not damage property. Wait all the words I'm not supposed to say but are going through my mind right now. Minute. Excuse me. Someone you claim as a lifelong friend was just gunned down in a disturbing scenario surrounded by devastating events, and your main concern is for inanimate property? His words lingered in the air, slapping me over and over and over until they slapped me out of my stupor. When the dizzying back and forth subsided, I heard the message loud and clear. Black bodies still equal property. This friend's statement revealed the ugly truth that in some people's minds, black bodies have never risen above the status of property. In these twisted minds, inanimate buildings and black bodies are on the same level assigned to them legally at this country's inception. Property. As I pondered this sickening revelation, I could hear a question forming in my soul. If black bodies and inanimate buildings are both seen as property, why is there only outrage over the destruction of inanimate buildings? The answer to this question erupted from my soul so quickly that question and answer were almost in tandem. I covered my ears in horror, trying not to hear the answer, but it was no use. The answer screaming from my soul was just too loud, too loud, too loud. I heard the answer, but I didn't want to hear the answer. I heard the answer, but I didn't want to hear the answer. I heard the answer, but I didn't want to hear the answer, but I heard the answer. The answer. The answer. The answer. The answer. That inanimate property, those buildings, they're still a source of revenue. They're necessary. That animated property, those black bodies, they're no longer a source of revenue. So now they are expendable. Sometimes I would actually welcome a moment of deafness. So I told you all I was suffering from recovering, let's put that out there, recovering from a concussion. In February of this year, I suffered my 4th concussion since 2015. And I have noticed that with this last concussion and the successive cumulative effect of the concussions, they're like repeated symptoms, things that just happen over and over and over again. This is concussed. I'm lying down again. I'm not asleep. I'm not sleepy. I can feel my brain, but I cannot think. I am concussed, suffering the effects of a hard blow to the head. It's Sunday, family day. All the kids are coming over, celebrating a birthday. Why is it so light? So bright in here. Happy birthday, Michael. We love you. Great conversation. Did I tell you about the time? Why is it so loud in here? Trying to get his attention. What's his name again? Oh yeah, Daryl. My husband. I'm lying down again. I'm not sleepy. I can feel my brain, but I cannot think. I am concussed, suffering the effects of a hard blow to the head. It was Saturday, family day. All the kids are coming over, celebrating another birthday. Why is it so bright in here? Happy birthday, Maria. We love you. Great conversation. Did I tell you about the time? Why is it so loud in here? Trying to get her attention. What's her name again? What's her name again? Oh, yeah, Maya. My granddaughter. I'm lying down again. I'm not asleep. I'm not sleepy. I can feel my brain, but I cannot think. I am concussed. Concussed, suffering the effects of a hard blow to the head. It was a Monday. News time. Gruesome story. It's the police. Another black man is dead. All the stations are broadcasting the story. Why is it so bright in here? Family is here. Dreadful conversation. Can you believe why is it so loud in here? He tried to get their attention. What was his name again? Oh, yeah, George Floyd. That was his name. I'm lying down again. I'm not asleep. I'm not sleepy. I can feel my brain, but I cannot think. I am concussed, suffering the effects of a hard blow to the head. It was a Saturday. News time. Gruesome story. It's the police again. Another black woman is dead. All the stations are broadcasting the story. Why is it so bright in here? Family is here. Dreadful conversation. Can you believe why is it so loud in here? They paid her no attention. What was her name again? A Tatiana. Yeah. A Tatiana Jefferson was her name. I'm lying down again. I'm not asleep. I'm not sleepy. I can feel my brain, but I cannot think. I am concussed. Concussed, suffering the effects of a hard blow to the head. It's Sunday, family day. All the kids are coming over, just hanging out, doing what families do. Why is it so loud in here? Great conversation. I didn't get to tell you about. Dreadful conversation. Can you believe what they did to? Why is it so loud in here? I'm trying to focus her attention. What's her name again? Oh yeah, Lydia. That's my name. I'm lying down again. I'm not asleep. I'm not sleepy. I can feel my brain, but I cannot think. I am concussed. Concussed. Suffering the effects of a hard blow to the head. Now, it could be any day. Now, it could be any name. So I'm lying down again. I'm not sleeping. I'm not sleeping. I can feel my brain, but I cannot think. I am concussed. We are concussed, suffering the effects of too many hard blows to the head. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. On black minds as property. This is the first time in our 16-year relationship that you've hurt me. When my black son confronted one of his white friends on his soft stance on racism and white supremacy, that was the answer he got in response. This is the first time in our 16-year relationship that you've hurt me. It was not lost on me, however, that this was the first time in 16 years that my son had broached this issue with his friend. The first time in 16 years that my son brought up his black experience, this white friend was offended, curious. It's a curious phenomenon, this offense of white people when they are faced with the totality of our collective experience as black people in America. As long as we are silent, allow them to think that our worlds are parallel, reinforce their view that everything is right with this country, then we are golden to them. But the moment we reveal our true existence, our true experience, the ponderings of our minds and of our souls, we have somehow wounded them. Curious. It's a curious phenomenon, this wounded approach to truth, this dismissal of information. You know what that is? It's the mindset of an owner, one who deems himself the sole proprietor of a thing, allowing and disallowing at will. In this particular case, this white friend deemed himself the sole proprietor of my son's black mind, along with its ability to perceive, reason, analyze, and discern. this friend's disdain revealed that he had assumed the privilege of denying my son the ability to understand his own experience, or more aptly, his own existence. Curious. It's a curious phenomenon, this perceived ownership of the black mind, this perceived ownership of black analysis, this perceived ownership of black knowledge. Curious. This ownership, however, it's never been real to us like it was and is to them. Even when white people physically owned our bodies, forbade us to read, forbade us to learn, forbade us, they thought, to engage our minds, we still owned and exercised our God-given rights to our minds. We perceived, we reasoned, we analyzed, we discerned. We understood oppression. We understood cruelty. We understood captivity. We understood religious and political hypocrisy. We understood freedom. And we never stopped devising in our minds the plans that we knew would bring us to the freedom that was rightfully ours. It's a curious phenomenon. This perceived denial of the black person to think, reason, and decide for himself how he experiences his own existence. Curious. Curious how black thoughts are deemed invalid until they assist the white man with a valuable venture. Then, and only then, do these perceived sole proprietors of black minds grant us permission to use our black minds. Think Ned the slave and his master, Oscar Stewart. Think slave invents, but master profits. Think, obviously, not the only two. Think, not the only theft of intellectual property. Think long before China. It's a curious phenomenon. The lack of curiosity of white America about black Americans. Curious. Curious, this assumption of knowledge by white Americans about black Americans without firsthand knowledge from black Americans. Curious. Curious, this feigned incredulity, this fake disbelief of white Americans when they encounter an unowned black mind. Curious. Curious, the astonished reality of white Americans when they finally realize that their perceived property, the black mind, never was and never will be theirs. Curious, 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 curious indeed. This next piece, although it was written about our experiences in the suburbs in Texas, about unequal relationships, about surface relationships, about refusing to delve deeper in relationships. It can be applied more broadly. in our individual relationships, but this particular piece, what brought this on, I was watching the news and some inane comment was made, and I just got this rush of, wow, they really don't have a clue. And they think we're living the same life, and we're not living the same in life. My experience is not like your experience. And so this is assumptions, declarations, and demands. You really think you know me? You make assumptions regarding me, make declarations about me, then make demands of me, on me. But you really don't know me. You really think I'm just like you. You assume my life is like yours. So you declare me satisfied, then demand my joy, my peace. But you really don't know me. You really think I cherish what you cherish. You assume my heart is fully yours. So you declare me approved, then demand I fall in line, in step. But you really don't know me. You think my road is easy. You assume I'm not a victim. So you declare me free, healed, and then demand I walk without a limp. But you really don't know me. You really think my heart is whole, that I have no reason to mourn. So you declare me comforted, then demand I comfort you, others. But you really don't know me. You really think you know me. You make assumptions regarding me, make declarations about me, then make demands of me, on me. But you really don't know me. You never really did. This next piece, I think we have all, in the Black community, we're all familiar. And I think since 2020, just about everybody in America is familiar with the talk about the traffic stop, 10 and 2, no sudden movements, get your stuff out on the dashboard. We've all heard that. And it's important, it's necessary, it's life-saving. But I think perhaps we need to go a little deeper, because we've not yet begun to talk about the internal angst that we have to go through in the midst of the 10 and 2, and it's time to address underneath the traffic stop. This is the traffic stop, a betrayal of self and soul. I saw the flashing lights before I heard the siren. Just do what it takes to stay alive, they tell you. I tell myself. Just do what it takes to stay alive, they tell you. I tell myself. I wonder which non-stereotyped Black version of myself would I present this time? Would it be, I graduated from Baylor University? Perhaps that might appear too uppity. Would it be, I'm picking up my sons from Faith Christian School? Perhaps that might push some unintended race mingling buttons. Would it be the demure, capitulating, apologizing for nothing version of my black self? Perhaps that might appear too accommodating. Would it be an all-out assertion that I'm a different type of black person? Perhaps that might arouse the need to show me how much I am the same. Just do what it takes to stay alive, they tell you. I tell myself. Just do what it takes to stay alive, they tell you. I tell myself. Which version of my non-stereotype black self will I choose this time? Whichever one I choose, even if it saves me from harm or worse, it will never assuage the betrayal of myself, the betrayal of my own soul that is necessary just to survive a traffic stop. Just do what it takes to stay alive, they tell you. I tell myself, just do what it takes. Good evening, officer. We do know that it is day to day for us as black people in this country. This is day to day. It's day to day for me right now. Actually, it's always been that way, but these days, day to day is amplified, magnified. I long for the day, each day, when I can just be free to be me, day to day to day to day. One day, someday, it's day to day. I woke up this morning, this day, not consciously aware that I'm black in America. This day, I made it through the whole day without being reminded of my skin, without subjugation, without domination, without intimidation, without supposed obligation. But it's day to day. I woke up this morning, this day, not consciously aware that I'm black in America. But now, it's the middle of the day. Newsflash! One of us has been hunted, brutally reminded of his skin, subjugated, dominated, intimidated, obligated. Eliminated. See, it's day to day. I woke up this morning, this day, not consciously aware that I'm black in America. This day, refreshing day, productive day, a day free just to be me. Close of the day, I made it through the whole, man, I forgot the salad for dinner today. Grocery store, older white couple, they turn toward me, stare at me, glare at me. It couldn't be lettuce in my teeth, they see. It's COVID-19, and I'm masked, you see. Now I'm in line, socially distanced. Younger white lady steps in front of me, looks at me, looks through me, looks past me, like she doesn't see me. Attempts subjugation, attempts domination, attempts intimidation, expects obligation. I square my shoulders, stand my ground, walk right past her and put my salad down. Back in the car, attempting to drive, I make a full stop. I'm sensing aftershock, hesitating, contemplating. Even though I stood my ground, my heart is heavy. Now tears abound. Brutally reminded of my skin today. Consciously aware I'm black in America this day. Yeah. It's day to day. I woke up this morning, this day, keenly aware that I'm black in America. It was on the news last night, the tragic news. Another sad story, unjust, gory, and it taunted and chased me all night long and slapped me awake with his lurid song. So this morning, this afternoon, this evening, what will it bring? Brutal reminders of the color of my skin, subjugation, domination, intimidation, supposed obligation. Elimination. I don't know. It's impossible to know. And so that's why it's day to day for me right now. Actually, it's always been that way, but these days, day to day is amplified, magnified. Oh, I long for the day, each day, day after day, when I can just be free to be me. Day to day to day to day, one day, someday. prologue kind of just sums up life for me. When I did this show the first time in Texas, it was nowhere on my radar. And all of a sudden, I just got this rush of stuff. And I realized, wow, there has been an underlying track to my whole life that I didn't even realize. So in 4th grade, I was 9 years old. There were some of us who were bused to a white school. And as the story goes, in black families, you make sure you behave. You are representing the whole community, the whole race. Don't do anything that will cause them to think that their stereotypes are true. So you act right in public. And I realized at that point that I've been acting my whole life. I've been acting my whole life because you couldn't handle the truth. I've been acting my whole life, I guess I was protecting you. I've been acting my whole life letting you think all was well. I've been acting my whole life when all really wasn't well. I let you think I was happy when I was in your midst because you needed me happy to maintain your blinded bliss. Oh, the world's a stage. But you created mine, handed me my script, each page, then coached me on my lines. You will blend silently in. You will not complain. After all, we let you in. Be grateful for this game. Yes, I've been acting my whole life, dutifully following your direction in your horror play of strife, where playing my true self makes me the villain. I tried to add my input, own my own craft. You crushed me underfoot, dismissed me, thought me daft. Yeah, I've been acting my whole life so you could maintain your norm. Meanwhile, swallowed all my grieving cries caused by your norm's harm. Oh, but I'm tired of acting now. My body of work, unnoticed. No need for me to bow, no need to cover motive. I'm walking off the stage, the one you set for me, onto my own stage and into my destiny. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all so much. You have no idea what your support and your encouragement means. This is new for me. And so I love each of you, and I appreciate each of you. Yeah. So we have a little bit of time left on the clock. Y'all, there should be to-go containers. Take you some food home. And thank you all again so much for joining us this evening. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Jerry he's the owner again. Y'all support Williamsburg.
All right. You know something? You know, I see a lot of people play here and do stuff. Let me just give you a little idea of what you just saw. You know, there's many forms of art. There's symphony orchestras, you know, ensemble players, jazz bands, rock bands, gospel singers. But there's only one really hard art form, and that's the solo player. A person that can sit by themselves and take the criticism if the show goes good or bad. They can't blame it on the piano player. They can't say that it was cold outside and nobody came out. But let me tell you something. This is kind of the genesis of your second career. I know you've been a great wife and a lovely mother, a teacher of your children. But I think you got a second career coming. I think you got something, because you have a way of explaining how the world is in this country and how you want to say, but you don't say it out loud. And I think you could be the arbiter of one of the people who can explain our situation to these crazy people that we live with. And it won't hammer them in the head. They will have to sit and listen because, one, it's entertaining and it's the truth. And there's one thing that you can't hide, it's the truth. So anyway, I want to say from the Williamsburg Music Center, I haven't seen anybody do an hour-and-a-half show by themselves in a long time. You dig? Because I know if I had to sit up here and play my guitar for you an hour and a half of you would have left after the first break. So anyway, listen here. You gather your stuff up and you take yourself where you want to go. Kids are grown up. You can leave them alone. You can even get mad at him if you want to and go on by yourself. But I know you're going to take him with it. But anyway, look at here. That was a whole lot of stuff to come out of one person's mind. So thank you. Give this young lady, give her a hand. Our chef just told me that there are little containers back there if you want to take a little something home with you. Help yourself. Make sure you take everything so that we don't have to do anything with it.